Hello, and welcome to Maybe I Can, exploring possibilities one sprinkle at a time. If you've ever found yourself asking, is this all there is to life? Then you're in the right place. I'm Debbie, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and coach. And every Tuesday, I'm here to share a sprinkle of hope and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the more joy, more fulfillment, more prosperity, more fun. We'll share stories of transformation, actionable tips, and that little nudge you need to take the next step. So let's embark on this journey of discovery and say, maybe I can, to a life filled with more. Ready to find out? Let's get started. The Maybe I Can show starts now. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Maybe I Can podcast. I'm your host, Debbie Weiss, and today happens to be a beautiful, sunny, glorious day here in New Jersey, which is very welcoming after a lot of rain, not to mention an earthquake, and of course, an eclipse that happened everywhere. I missed the earthquake, I have to say. I was traveling and I was in Washington, D.C. So I got a call from my son who said, I'm okay, out of the blue, which he would never do that. And I said, okay, that's good to know. And he said, well, we just had an earthquake. What? I think they said 250 years since we had an earthquake of this magnitude. It was 4.8, I believe, on the Richter scale. So, a lot of excitement here. I missed it, but luckily everybody is safe, and I hope the same holds true for you. So today, the title of this episode is A Sprinkle of Belief. And what I'm specifically talking about are first identifying and overcoming our limiting beliefs. Now, I don't know if that's a new term to you. I know a few years back, I had never heard that before and didn't really understand what a limiting belief was. And I can tell you, a limiting belief is a judgment about yourself that you believe to be true that restricts you in some way. So these beliefs kind of keep us in a negative mindset, and it stops us from taking on new opportunities and challenges because we believe for some reason that we're not capable, we're not worthy, we're not good enough. And then that limits us. That literally limits our potential in life, right? I don't know about you, but I can think of countless number of times that this has happened to me, and I'm going to share some of those examples with you. I mean, most of these beliefs come from a place of fear, and we all have them. The goal is to figure out how to identify them and how to overcome them. You know, we've been telling ourselves these thoughts over and over and over again for such a long time that we believe them to be true. And we don't question them. Where did they come from in the first place? Like, how do we get those limiting beliefs? I mean, maybe you and I have some in common, and I'm sure we do. And then there's others that we don't. You know, speaking for myself, my limiting beliefs started at a very early age, thinking that I was not good enough and I was not worthy of love or happiness because of the way I looked, because of my weight. And I have very early memories of being in preschool and knowing that I was different from the other kids. And I got to tell you, when I look back at pictures, I was like a really cute little teeny chubby little girl, anyhow, funny the things that we hold in our head. Another early memory for me was when I was probably about kindergarten age. I attended my first dance class. I have always loved to dance. I loved to dance as a little kid. My parents were very good dancers. I would love when they would turn on a record on our big stereo. I don't remember what those were called. Ugh, there was a name. It was it was a piece of furniture. And the record player was inside, and we would go in the living room, and my parents would put on music from the 50s, and they would do the Lindy, and I would just watch them in such awe. They were just so graceful and moved so well to the rhythm. And I just loved it. And all I wanted to do was do the same thing. Back then, you didn't go to, you didn't start taking sports classes and dance classes at like, 2 years old. You had to wait until you were in kindergarten. And so I was so excited to attend my first dance class. I remember going out and going shopping, and I'm a pink kind of girl, so I had to have a pink tutu and pink tights and pink bodysuit and the whole thing. And I walked into that first dance class, and I can remember this, which is so crazy. I can remember looking at the other little girls and feeling self-conscious. But when the music started, I was ready to rock and roll. And I was good at it. I mean, I'm going to own it. I was good at it. It came naturally to me. Now, not necessarily ballet, but just having the rhythm and learning to follow routines and steps. I picked up on the steps very, very quickly. And every week I couldn't wait to go, and I practiced at home, and I loved to put on the little tap shoes and, go out in the back and tap, because I'm pretty sure I wasn't allowed to do the tap dancing in my house. And spring came, and the teacher announced that we were going to do a recital, and whatever the name of the, number that we were doing, I don't recall. And I was actually given the lead part. Back then, they had the costumes already made because, of course, the same, kindergartners are put on the same show year after year. And one day I walked into the class so excited because, let's face it, I was puffing up my chest because I was going to be the lead, and I was feeling confident and really good about myself. And one of the moms was in there helping with the costumes before class started. And I remember her coming at me with that white and black monster, which was the measuring tape. And all I remember is she measured me somewhere, and she tried to whisper to the teacher, the costume won't fit her. And that was it. I heard that. I was mortified. I ran out hysterical crying. My mother couldn't get me to go back in, and I never stepped foot in dance class again until I was an adult. Boy, when I look back now on that decision that 5-year-old me made, it could have changed the trajectory of my life. Who knows? Maybe I would have been a professional dancer. Maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have found other opportunity or met other people or found some other passion that I love through doing that. I have no idea. But at such an early age, that message that mom was sending to me, which I know that she certainly didn't do it on purpose, whoever that mom is out there, I know it wasn't your fault. We all say and do things that, are unintentional. I think about, let's face it, most of our limiting beliefs form before the age of 8 years old. 8 years old. So it's what our parents are saying to us, what our teachers, our peers, everybody who's around us, different situations that we're in. And when I think about this, I think, oh my goodness, what have I done or said to my own children? We all do it, and we don't mean to. we don't know what we're saying or realizing what we're doing in the heat of the moment that a child internalizes and reads a message or takes it as a message that, was unintentional. You didn't mean to send that message. I felt I wasn't worthy. I wasn't good enough. I remember that people were always saying, I would hear people comment, "Oh, she has such a pretty face." And I was waiting for the punchline. It's such a shame. Like, if she had a better body, she would actually just be pretty. It wouldn't have to be qualified that, according to them, I just had a pretty face. How does that make me feel? How did that make me feel? My mom, when I was growing up, because I was unhappy with my weight, she didn't know how to help me. So she would put me on these diets, and nobody else in my house needed to diet other than me. And so what they would do is they would take, cookies and chips and, whatever are considered, junk food basically, and they would hide them in different hiding spots around the house. And they would eat them when they thought that I wasn't there. Well, I could never get access to these kind of things. So I would go searching for those hiding spots. I mean, how many hiding spots could there be in a tiny little middle class Cape house? I don't know. I don't remember how many rooms we had, not that many. There weren't that many hiding spots, especially when I would find one and then they would have to find a new spot. Or I would find the stuff and then eat it all because I didn't know when I was going to find it again. And the hiding of the food, the going on the diets, it sent a message that you're not good enough. You're not good enough to eat like everybody else is because you've got a problem. And again, I know my parents weren't intentionally trying to do that to me. When I grew up and I was a teenager, well, boys didn't look my way because I didn't have the perfect body, which once again said I didn't measure up. I was unworthy. I had a friend who she had a killer body, but she grew up thinking she wasn't smart enough. It's funny, her beliefs were just the opposite of mine. I had more confidence in my intelligence, and she had more confidence in her looks. Maybe that's what made us such a great team, to have she had what I wanted and I had what she wanted. And it ruled the way that we lived, that we chose to live, the things that it was just too painful, and it is too painful to think about those memories and those times, and to think about when we were made not to feel good about ourselves. But this is what we need to do in order to start releasing these beliefs that we all have, whether it's I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm never have enough money, whatever it is, that story that you tell yourself, they're just things that we've been thinking over and over. And as I mentioned last week about the fact that our brain is neuroplastic, meaning we can reprogram it regardless of how old we are. And we need to start by being aware of these old stories and reminding ourselves that they're not true, and then replacing it with a new story. So think about some area in your life where you're successful, that you have confidence. What story do you tell yourself when things present a challenge? For example, I tell myself I'm smart and capable of running a business. That's why I'm successful in my career. However, I also tell myself that I'll always have stress over money, just as my parents and my brother have had. Of course, I'm always going to have struggles with my money if that's what I think to myself. If I flip that instead and I change my story to, I'm intelligent and I have all the skills necessary to change my relationship with money, I would probably be taking different actions if I came from a place of power instead of a place of defeat. So I'm not smart enough. I'm not popular. I'm not as good as they are. Boy, I'm not as good as they are. I can't do it as good as they can. That has become a big one in this time of social media, the comparisonitis that I think so many of us suffer with, looking in everybody's perfect life in social media and how successful they are and the doctored pictures and people only putting the best stories out there. That just tugs at our limiting beliefs. That's just, that is putting a microscope on the things that we believe about ourselves. And it's the worst. Comparing ourselves to others it's so difficult not to do. And I have to be honest, even though I post on social media, I rarely go and look anymore because especially when my kids were growing up, I found it very difficult. I remember, oh, look, there's that birthday party and my son didn't get invited. And oh, look, these people are out there socializing and they didn't include us. And oh, look at that happy family. Boy, they don't seem to be fighting on vacation like we might be. All the things. And it killed me. It killed me. And I was doing it to myself. And I was telling myself stories that weren't necessarily true, like we do all the time. Another limiting belief is that I can't start. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to start. Gosh, I did that forever with the podcast. It's coming up on a year anniversary since I had the podcast and I couldn't do it. I told myself this is too difficult. I don't know what I would say. I don't know how to do it. I have to wait. I'm not ready. I have too many other things, right? It's so easy to tell that story to ourselves, to push something off. But really, what I was saying, I don't think I'm good enough. That's really deep down what I was telling myself. I don't think I'm good enough to have a podcast. I don't think I am worthy. I don't think that people will listen. I don't think that I have anything to offer. That's really kind of what I was telling myself. We try and wait sometimes till everything is perfect. Guess what? Everything will never be perfect. Nope, won't be perfect. So why not try now to rid ourselves of those beliefs? And I say rid ourselves. Is that ever going to happen? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll never rid ourselves 100% of our beliefs. But if we're aware of them, if we know when they're talking to us and we're able to identify them and flip the switch, right? That is the key. So I'm going to read you some beliefs that maybe you have. I want you to listen, see if these are anything that you tell yourself either recently or in the past. I don't deserve to make a lot of money. I'm hopeless and will never change. I don't have enough time. I think that's one that we all tell ourselves too much. And I have to say, when I first started kind of down this journey of transformation, that was what I told myself. I was working full time and kids and, household and all of that kind of stuff. And I was trying to get a certification and I was trying to learn about how to create a website and all these things. And it was like, well, I don't have time. Well, maybe if I didn't sit down on the couch after dinner and watch TV, I'd have a little more time. Maybe if I got up a half hour earlier every day and used that time to be productive, I could make it happen. But when I tell myself I don't have enough time, well, that's it. I don't have enough time, so there's nothing I can do. Okay, I'm too far gone to start caring about my body now. Oh boy, I can relate to that one. I don't have enough energy. Financial security is a pipe dream. One day I'll change, but now's not the time. Exercise isn't that important. Getting my hopes up always leads to disappointment. So that one reminds me of a story of when I was in high school. When I was in high school or growing up before high school, softball was my sport. And I had a really good arm. I was a good thrower. Thrower. Is that a word? I don't know. You know what I mean. I had a strong arm and I was a really good catcher. And I was a first baseman because I wasn't quick. But anyway, I really enjoyed playing softball. But of course, I never felt I was good enough because I wasn't fast. I was a decent batter, but I wasn't the best by any means. It really, the catching, throwing and catching were really my very big strengths. And I had a friend, Stacy, who was just an all-around jock. She was just super athletic, great at every sport, but she wasn't great at being social. And I think that maybe, we each found something in each other because I didn't have a problem socializing and being in groups and whatnot. But she didn't have that confidence and had those limiting beliefs. And I had these limiting beliefs as far as my ability to play softball. And when I was in high school, my high school was 10th through 12th grade. Ninth grade was in the junior high. So when I was in 10th grade and first year in high school and softball tryouts, and I had about, I don't know, like 600 plus kids in my graduating class. So let's just say that's 2,000 kids in the high school. Who knows how many how many girls were trying out for softball, but it was a lot. And I went the first 2 days. First day, I remember, you went, you warmed up. Stacy was, warmed up with me. I was feeling good. And, I felt like the first 2 days, okay. I had a good showing and it was a 4-day tryout. Well, I heard on the third day, they were going to do base running. That's it. I'm out. That just reminded me, you're not fast. You're not good enough. Why did you ever think that trying out for this team was a good idea? You might as well just get out now while you can. And I did. I didn't show up to the last 2 days of tryouts. And Stacy begged me to come and she couldn't believe it. And I'm like, nope, you know what? I don't need to be disappointed. So on the 5th day, 7 o'clock in the morning, they post the list, of course, on the bulletin board of who made it. And as I was walking to school, I see Stacy actually running towards me, coming out of the building, screaming. I actually made the team. I made the team, and I didn't go to the second half of the tryouts. Imagine, you know what? And then, of course, those 3 years of playing high school softball, really did change my life. So let's start talking about strategies for overcoming all of these limiting beliefs that we have. The first is to identify these beliefs and write them down, whether it's something that you journal about, anytime you notice them, if you really sit quietly and think back, the things that you're saying to yourself. I don't have the right education. I'll always be broke. I just have bad luck. That's a big one for me too. Oh, my life, it's just the way it works. I just don't have the luck everyone else does. Start noticing those things and writing them down. You need to get to the bottom of that. Take a moment and pause and analyze, where is that coming from? Do you have any evidence to back up that that is really true? Really be honest with yourself. Is it true, or is it just the thought coming from fear? Fear from a past experience. Okay, yeah, I'm sure you failed at things. We all have. That doesn't mean that that will be the way it is from here on in. That doesn't mean that you're a failure and that you're not good enough. And if you're not sure, say, why do I believe this? And write it down and keep repeating that process. But why? But why? To understand, where does it come from? And then once we have them, we need to flip them. And instead of telling ourselves all of these negative things, the best way to combat it is to come up with positive affirmations. Now, sounds a little woo-woo to me. Certainly did when I first heard it. But affirmations are just sentences that you repeat to yourself. So instead of saying, I'm not good enough to manage this project, how about I have the capabilities necessary to succeed at everything that I do? If you say, I don't have enough time to invest in myself, how about I have the ability to reorganize my time in order to focus on what's important to me, which is exactly what I did with that, what I said earlier. Reframing those things help to retrain your mind to see the positive. Another thing, if you're not comfortable with writing it down and examining, even though I think you should, maybe an easier way is to stop speaking to yourself so negatively. Recognize every time that you're telling yourself and berating yourself, catch yourself. And anytime you catch yourself, I want you to say 3 positive things to yourself. Anytime you hear the one thing, say 3 positive things. And lastly, never give up. Whenever a limiting belief kicks in, you have to remind yourself you are not alone. Everyone who's human experiences limiting beliefs. Even people that you look up to, leaders and entrepreneurs and celebrities and politicians, whoever that is that you look up to, each and every one of them has to deal with these limiting beliefs. So we need to recognize it, flip the switch with positive affirmations, challenge those beliefs, and keep going. And so, speaking about keep going, it's like last week talking about the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. You can change. That's the growth mindset. You can put those limiting beliefs out of your head and start telling yourself the truth and the positive and what you are capable of. I invite you this week to reflect on your own limiting beliefs and consider how they have influenced the choices that you've made in your life. I also want to invite you to, I would love to hear your stories and your thoughts on limiting beliefs. For inspiration, why don't you click on the link in the show notes and join my free Maybe I Can Facebook group? So I go live twice a month in the group. The first time is an accountability section where we get together, talk about our goals, and hold each other accountable. And the other, which is coming up on April 16th, I answer any of your questions. So it's all free. Click on the link. And then once you're in the group, you can ask any question and join me on April 16th. Okay, that's all I have for today. I am so thankful that you spent this time with us, and I can't wait to share more with you in our next episode when we'll be discussing a sprinkle of courage. See you then.
Thanks for spending part of your day with me here on Maybe I Can, exploring possibilities one sprinkle at a time. It's been great having you, and I hope you're leaving with a spark to light up your journey to more. Remember, every big change starts with a single maybe. If you're ready to kickstart that change but not sure where to begin, I've got just the thing for you. Head over to download my free guide, The One Critical Step to Kickstart Change, and take that all-important first step. Let's make those maybes into reality, one sprinkle at a time. Catch you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, with more stories, tips, and that extra push you might need. I'm Debbie saying goodbye for now, but always remember, maybe, just maybe, you can.